Facebook and share there.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for an episode of the Tim and Jim Show. I'm delighted to be here this afternoon, but to discuss a rather serious topic, coronavirus, conferences, and liability. So, Jim, my trusty co-host, take it away.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and good morning to Mitch because he's on the West Coast. Jim Fuse with Fusion Marketing, and extremely excited to have with us Mitch Jackson, one of the top trial attorneys in the state of California, and also what I consider a social media expert. He's really taken using his service as a lawyer and sharing things across all the social platforms, is actually even an author. Wrote a book, The Ultimate Guide to Social Media, which I had the pleasure of reading. And I was shocked how many of the people that he had write some chapters in I knew. So that was really cool as well. And so, Mitch, pleasure to have you here today. And how are things out there in sunny California?
Jim, sorry to interrupt you. Your audio went out.
Oh, can you hear me, Tim?
I can hear you, Jim.
Yep. Can you hear me now, Tim? Can you hear me now? Mitch, can you hear me? Can you hear Tim?
Mitch, can you hear me? Paging Mitch. Mitch, can you hear me?
We're having let me see.
Sorry, guys, I don't have an audio.
I'm going to send him a private note.
Which is what makes live video so much fun. Can you guys hear me? Thumbs up?
Yes, we can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, I'd be happy to. I'll reboot, guys.
Okay.
All right. So
Mitch will be back with us in a second.
Yeah, Mitch will be back in a second. In the meantime, we would love to know, you guys, if has this coronavirus affected you in any way? Are you a speaker? I know I was planning on helping out with a conference called Social Media Weekend in New York City in just a few weeks, and they just announced today that that conference is going all virtual. So looking forward to seeing what that looks like. But is this coronavirus affecting you? Jim, is it affecting you at all, or anybody you know that you've heard about?
It's definitely affecting people that I know. And let's bring Mitch back on.
Testing two.
We can hear you, Mitch. Can you hear us?
Hello?
Mitch, can you hear us?
Well, this isn't what we're looking for. So obviously you guys can hear me, and I am unable to hear you. So
I was going to say,
let me one more time, gentlemen, because we have some really important information for anybody we watch. I just want to make sure we cover all this stuff to keep everybody safe. I'm going to bounce out and bounce again. And this is not or Tim's fault. We actually got everything working 5 minutes before showtime. Pressure's off.
Jim, maybe what you could do is you could put the questions in the private chat, and then he could
right. That's what I'll do if we could. Yeah, because I think I can hear him, and hopefully our audience can hear him as well. It's just interesting how that works sometimes. But yeah, no, there's definitely there's been some people that we know that are speakers that have, their conferences have been canceled. I think there's even been more of a move to do online conferences. I know that Agora Pulse is in the process of setting up a conference, I believe, for later this summer, where they're going to bring on some of these speakers that have actually lost their paid speaking gigs, and I think they're actually going to see if there's a way they can compensate them, but still make it free to the actual, attendees, and they're looking for sponsorships. So that's something if you want to reach out to Mike Alton at Agora Pulse, and I think that'll be something that'll be extremely important. So but all right, let's see, we got Mitch coming on again. Let's try.
Mitch.
All right,
can you hear us, Mitch?
A feeling you guys can hear that I can't hear you.
They do this. Sending him a note. So if he sees my note there.
Gentlemen, I'm not sure what to tell you.
Mitch.
I have a plan B. If you'd like me to go plan B, we can give it a try. It's going to take me about 2 minutes.
Okay.
So you guys want to do a setting and overalls to what the challenges are for all of us? Maybe what we were just talking about on that Princess Cruise situation, which does relate to conferences. And I'll be right back on a different system. I appreciate your indulgence, everybody.
All right.
Sounds good. Thank you, everybody, for sticking around as we attempt to navigate the waters of live streaming here. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how conferences play out in the virtual space, especially there's even been a case of the coronavirus not too far from where I live in the neighboring county, and there's been some talk in some of the local school districts about how if the school districts might close at some point and how that would look in terms of a virtual school experience. I think this is Jim, don't you think this is a good, not a good experience to have, but in terms of thinking about always have a backup plan in case something like this does happen, whether it's for a school district or a conference, what are you going to do if for some reason you can't have an in-person event or a class, right?
Right. Well, I think absolutely, Tim. I mean, even when you look at there's a number of colleges that are canceling in-person classes and going to online. You're starting to see, work as well, where they're starting to have people remotely work. I know our friend Kelly Noble Mirabella was talking about how her husband's company SpaceX, like if you don't feel well, you don't need to come in. Really, I would say erring on the side of safety as opposed to getting all worked up about that. And I think, in some aspects, if you want to talk about the silver lining, it really helps make us think through things in general, as far as what is the best way to handle things. And I think it actually opens up a discussion on the future of remote work, because if you start to find some companies can actually get things done with people working remotely, maybe they'll rethink the whole mindset of, I've got to have these people in the office all the time. All right, let's see. We got Mitch coming back here.
So, can you hear me, testing, Mitch? 1, 2, 3.
Testing?
I can hear you. Can you hear us? Awesome.
I can't.
Yeah, because everybody said they can hear all three of us.
Audio, if you guys can hear.
Yes, we can hear you.
Really?
All right. Yes.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to be here.
All right. Yes. Thanks for joining us, Mitch. It's a pleasure to have you. And what's interesting, you and I have been talking about this show for a while, and it just happened to be that you put this paper out last week about the legal impacts of the coronavirus on, not just for speakers and conferences, but also the attendees. And it really starts to cross over into a lot of things. And so you were talking earlier, Mitch, I know when we started having the technical difficulties, you just put something out too about the impact of if the Princess, as well as the Princess cruise were to take the same ship out. You want to go back into that?
Well, absolutely. Yeah, thoughts that I have, both as a lawyer and someone who does speaking and watching good speakers from the stage. I've got 2 kids that are being affected by the coronavirus right now with work and school, is whether or not an event planner or convention that puts on a large event, frankly, even a small event as of this week, whether or not there can be any liability, should there be any liability to the event holders, should anyone become ill, whether it's from the coronavirus, another infectious disease, or for some other reason, an unsafe premises, inadequate construction, seats that break, all of the traditional premises liability arguments, do they apply to infectious disease? And I think the answer is yes. One of the things we were talking about before we went live is the Princess cruise ship that just docked. Something like 19 to 21 confirmed coronavirus infected individuals. 19 of them were employees. Many are on the ship. Some are being helped off the ship and being treated. But the question is, what if this particular cruise ship had a conference set to go out to sea for the next 3 days, and the three of us were scheduled speakers to be on that 3-day cruise, which happens all the time in the cruise ship industry. What if the cruise ship didn't desanitize the boat? What if they left those same 19 employees on to save the company some money rather than having to fly in other employees from Florida or in California? What are the consequences if people get sick? Is there liability? I think the answer to that question is obviously there's liability. They knew there was a dangerous situation. In exchange for selling tickets to our event to listen to the three of us speak, we invited 1,000 people on the boat, and X amount of people became ill. And I would never want to see that happen to anybody or any company. But that's one extreme example of why there would be liability. And so what I thought I'd do is put together a blog post that talked about what can speakers do to avoid putting themselves in that situation. What can events do to help protect speakers, their team members, and their audience members? And then as an attendee, what can you do to help make sure you're walking into a safe environment? So those are the 3 talking points I thought were somewhat interesting, and I shared that last Thursday night, and it's got some good traction.
Yeah, Mitch, I think Tim and I can hear you, but I know our audience is having a little trouble with your mic, so I don't know if there's something you can improve. But basically, Mitch was talking about the fact that these cruise ships could be held liable for actually allowing these people to come on if they don't take the proper procedures. So they definitely need to do that. And Mitch has just written an article that will drop in the comments of this show, so you can read about that as well, because we also shared Mitch's article from last week about just the fact with the liability as well. And so I know we've been having a little bit of technical difficulties here. Mitch, I mean, I really think, do you have any tips that conference and event planners need to take? I know there's some that are starting to talk about going to virtual. Do you think that's a good idea? No, hold on. We can't hear you.
Tim, I'd like to just do a voice check with you. Can you hear me okay?
Okay, I could hear you now. If our audience can let us know if you can hear Mitch, we can hear Mitch. I can hear you, but Tim, can you hear him?
Yeah, it's a bit staticky though.
So, I think the problem maybe is I'm having a really challenging time, Jim, to hear you from the very start of the show.
Right.
While I move. Same with you, Tim. And the setup that I'm using is something that it works 99.9% of the time.
Right. So, well, maybe what we should do. Go ahead, Mitch. Go ahead, Mitch. You were saying you want to reschedule this?
I think we should reboot this. It's an important topic.
Okay. Yeah, let's try that.
Want to do it,
yeah, if you want to try to reboot, we're willing to stay on. Let me see. I'm going to give a
well, I don't think it's. Here. I think it's StreamYard. I've been doing this a long time. I've used all the platforms. For some reason, I think we're having some challenges with StreamYard. What I was going to suggest is setting up a new StreamYard show.
Okay.
Brand new link. Send it over to me, and I'll jump right back on. We shouldn't have any problems.
Yeah, we'll try that. We'll do that. We're gonna jump off everyone, and then we're gonna come back on with a brand new link, and we'll see if that makes a difference. So we'll be back in about 5 minutes.
Just so you guys don't feel bad, I was on a show with Seth Godin. We had 12,000 live viewers on the show, and we had this very same problem, and we resolved it the same way the three of us are going to resolve it.
All right, that sounds like a plan. So we'll be back in a few minutes, folks. Thank you.